Well, the agricultural community continues working around the clock for against COVID-19 disruptions, and many are reviewing retirement-related provisions of the CARES Act. Well, Roger McEowen with the Washburn University School of Law joins us now for today's Rural Money segment. Roger, as always, thanks for taking the time to chat with us today. First of all, let's start with the change in early distribution penalty rule. What are we talking about there?
Good to be with you, Janet. The early distribution penalty is a 10% additional tax on what are defined to be early distributions from a qualified retirement plan. And that is, if you take a distribution on or before you turn age 59 and a half under present law, then you have to pay an additional 10%. Plus, of course, the amount withdrawn has to be included in income. Well, the CARES Act that the President signed into law on March 27 waives that 10% penalty to any distribution that's related to the coronavirus or SARS-related disease or virus during this year, excluding December 31. So it only goes through December 30. The maximum amount you can take out is $100,000 total. Now, it doesn't have to all be withdrawn at once, but that's the total amount. So you can pull out up to $100,000 early. And if it's on account of you being impacted by the virus or the SARS virus or the coronavirus disease, then you don't have to pay the 10% penalty. You still have to include it in income, but no penalty.
Are there any updates to restrictions on loans?
There are. Loans from a qualified can be made now up to $100,000. That's up from $50,000 for the first 6 months after enactment. So basically, through about September 27. The loan is capped at 100% of the vested account balance, and it has to, again, go to a qualified individual. That's somebody that's impacted one way or another by the virus issue that's going around right now. And so if you have an outstanding loan on March 27 this year from an eligible retirement plan would have to repay between March 27 and the end of this year, the additional rule on this says that due date is extended for 1 year. So they've increased the amount and extended the due date for loans falling due this year.
Now, what about modifications to the required minimum distribution rule? What do producers need to keep in mind in that regard?
Well, that's now been waived for calendar year A for amounts from an IRA, a 401k, or a 403b plan, or other defined contribution plan that's in effect by the end of 2020. So that waiver applies to any distribution required to be made this year due to a required beginning date. And, of course, that triggers if you turn age 72. That was increased from 70 and a half under the Secure Act that was passed in December. And so if you turn age 72, you'd normally have to take your required minimum distribution. That's now waived for this year.
All right. Well, Roger, as always, thank you very much for your insight today. Roger McEowen, he's with the Washburn University School of Law, joining us on the phone today from Topeka, Kansas.